Say it ain't so. Say it ain't so. They said Joe Buttons of the Joe Budden podcast is getting sued for that little incident that 50 Cent keep making fun of when they said Joe was walking around sleepwalking naked. They said he was naked. They said Melissa Ford getting sued too. Y'all better like the video. You better subscribe. Let's check this out. Shout out TMZ. They said Joe Budden sued. Neighbors had enough. They saying nude streaking. Like Joe was some white girl in Miami on spring break. They said nude streaking, weed smoking, podcast gotta go. Oh Lord, we got some images, y'all. They got the ring footage. Now this not the video, this just a screenshot. My first question is this couple or this family, are they gonna leak the nude footage? Are they gonna sell it to 50 Cent? Does TMZ already got it? Are we gonna see a video of Joe Budden walking around, not in his undies, but no undies? No undies, Jesus. It says Joe Budden is being dragged into court by two neighbors who claim he tried to enter their place while naked and has been causing a ruckus in the building with his podcast. So his podcast, I guess, is in a condo building or apartment building or something like that. TMZ Hip Hop obtained a complaint filed by attorney Thomas Mirigilanio. I know I just butchered his name, but oh well. On behalf of John and Yulia Aksoy, who claimed Budden, his podcast co-host Melissa Ford, and the Condo Association, not the Condo Association, have engaged in a campaign of intimidation and retribution after Aksoy's raised complaints about the disruption from Budden recording his highly rated podcast in the building. Jesus. So they not just mad about the streaking or Joe being naked. They upset about the podcast in general. And that kind of makes me look at this situation a little different, because it seems like maybe, just maybe, they're using the incident where Joe was going into the wrong apartment. That's what Joe claimed. He was, trying to get into his apartment and he ain't had no clothes on and he made a mistake and he went to their door. But it kind of feels like they might be using that situation because they really want Joe gone because of the podcast and they feel like it's making a lot of noise. John and Yulia both claim they confronted Budden about the excessive noise from the podcast and complained about Budden and co smoking weed in the condo's common area, leaving ashes on the property and creating a hazardous health situation for their young daughter. Okay, so we've been hearing a lot about people having an issue with people smoking in certain areas. Now, I don't know how I feel about this, because I don't know if you guys know this, but this is a common thing every time you move in an area where you don't have your own home. There's going to be somebody smoking. There's going to be somebody playing loud music. Even if it wasn't Joe Budden having a podcast there or recording a podcast there, it would be somebody out there smoking cigarettes, playing loud music. And it's funny that I'm doing this story because somebody was just telling me about a place where they're paying an excessive amount of money to stay and they hear loud music every morning. So these complaints that this family has, they seem like common complaints that most people have when they move into an apartment and things of that nature. Am I right? Y'all let me know. The Aksoy said they even filed a complaint with the Condo Association, leading to Budden firing back and accusing Yulia of making racially charged remarks towards him. Now, is that true? Because obviously the Aksoys, I'm assuming they aren't African American. So, what's the evidence on that? Did people hear the Aksoys calling Joe some kind of names or some kind of racial slurs? They say Budden even doubled down and claimed to have a recording of the alleged racism. Okay, so they said Joe recorded it. John says he called his bluff and told him to produce the audio, which they say still hasn't surfaced. All right, so the guy was like, all right, you got to record and play the recording. And they said Joe couldn't provide it. But at the same time, and by the way, I'm not trying to make this sound like I'm on Joe's side, but how often do people have evidence on somebody and they be like, all right, you got the evidence, show me the evidence. And somebody like, all right, I'm going to show it to you. No, I'm going to wait until you put me in a situation for me to have to bring it to court or something like that. So, you know, I doubt if Joe was going to show them the evidence on his phone or something like that, especially if they having some kind of heated altercation. I might want you to stay over there because if you get any closer, this might get serious, John. So maybe Joe has that evidence. I guess we'll find out later. The couple also cites an episode of the podcast from October 2024, which they said involved the host deliberately playing loud music and simulated gunshots and sirens lasting more than 8 minutes. Now, if y'all listen to the podcast, we've heard the gunshots and the sirens multiple times. I don't know if Joe was doing it deliberately, but I think any fan of the podcast would know he's been playing sound effects since, I think, before they got into this new spot. So the spot with the couches and, you know, where it's Ice and Ish and everybody, I feel like they were doing sound effects before they moved the podcast, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know how much this part will help the Axoys in their case, because this is something a lot of podcasts do, a lot of YouTubers do. We play sound effects, you know? On the same episode, they say Budden referred to the Axoys as the neighbors and dissed Yulia on the podcast. They also say Budden misrepresented his alleged attempt to enter the Axoys' residence while naked on December 4th, as he joked and dismissed the incident publicly. The Axoys included screenshots from a door cam they say shows a nude Budden in the hallway. Now, we just saw some of the screenshots, okay? But it's not like the screenshots are showing him doing something crazy. It looked like he just rang the doorbell and was trying to get in. It don't look like he was trying to force himself in. It don't look like he was kicking the door down. Maybe he was at the wrong condo. Now, I'm not saying it's right for him to be out there naked. He said he was sleepwalking. I don't know if he has any kind of medical evidence to show that this is something that he's done before, or if anybody can, you know, protest to that story. I think on the podcast, somebody else, it might have been Parks, who said Joe has done this before on tour or something like that. Don't like hold me to that. I'm just saying, I think I heard that. But at the same time, it looked like he rang a doorbell and was waiting for somebody to answer the door. It don't look like he was trying to force himself in. Just from the screenshots, he's sitting here rubbing his stomach. So it seems like they're trying to say he was trying to break in, or he had a weapon, or he was doing something nasty. It don't look like he was touching himself or anything like that either. I'm just being real. It says Budden was subsequently temporarily barred from the condo, but they said he returned about a week later. Joe's lawyer, Nima Amiri, Joe would have a lawyer whose last name is Amiri. The Amiri God himself, the only black man in America to actually buy the Amiri hats. None of y'all was wearing Amiri hats until Joe Budden bought them. Let's just keep it real. Even his lawyer last name is Amiri. He got a designer lawyer. Jesus. Tells TMZ Hip Hop they believe the lawsuit is little more than a money grab attempt by a person we believe to be racist. Now look, I might be on the side of this is a money grab because I was looking for some kind of damning evidence against Joe. I thought they was going to say, you know, he was touching himself, he was being nasty at the door, but it seems like they spent more time talking about the disruption and the loud music and Joe causing havoc while he's recording this podcast more than the incident where he was allegedly nude streaking. And to me, when you say streaking, that means somebody was running up and down the hallway or something like that. It looked like Joe was just walking and standing. Or from the screenshots, he was just standing. And also, I'm trying to think, where does Melissa Ford come in on this? Because remember, it said the attorney has filed on behalf of John and Yalia Ahsoka, who claimed Budden, his podcast co-host Melissa Ford, and the Condo Association. So the complaint is about Joe, Melissa, and the Condo Association. But in everything we just read on TMZ, what did Melissa Ford do? Why they mentioning Melissa Ford? Melissa Ford just seemed like a tag on or a name that they added to this to make it seem more spicy. Like, let's just name all the celebrities. They not gonna name the other co-hosts from the podcast. They just gonna name the celebrities. Joe Budden, Melissa Ford. They're the big names. But everybody else they not gonna mention. They could have at least mentioned Queen's Flip. Why they leave Flip out of there? I think that was disrespectful to Flip.
Man, I fell down to my knees when the law came.
They could have at least mentioned Flip. If you gonna name all the celebrities on the podcast, at least mention Queen's Flip. He doing this thing out there. So I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this, man. Like the video and subscribe. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.